I think, yeah, Americans' education, especially the extremist, leftist, this kind of ideology, make it like very similar to communists. But I still think that if we call America as a communist country, then every country in the world should be the communism. Then there should be the branches inside communist fight against the different branches, and that would be another story. I mean, this is just about definition. Anyway, I think, yeah, it's very dangerous to push Europe to Russia. And also, I also believe that Europe is very, very important in geopolitics for America's national security, and also all this kind of future future long-term strategy if the United States want to maintain the U.S. dollar's dominance in the world, and also the civilization as what we have now. But I also have some other idea. I just want to share something from my observation that we see, yes, NATO claims that if U.S. left NATO, and then Russia will win in Europe. But I also could understand that Trump threatened to pull the United States out of NATO, because NATO behaves much weaker than they talk about during the Ukraine-Russia war. And they didn't respond enough. Especially, it's very clear that communist China is behind that, and that is a regime give Russia all Russia need, and help Russia to be like, I would say, if Russia was like the frozen monster or frozen dragon, and communist China basically defrozen it and equipped it and gave it all the things they need to kill people, to launch the invasion. But still, Europe tried to downplay all this kind of, in fact, influence from China. And even whenever no matter NATO or the European, especially European Union, when they have this kind of conflict between the U.S., like for example, Trump's tariff policies, they always claim that they should deepen their ties with communist China to seek for balance. So this is, for me, I think this is very ridiculous. It's not the thinking to solve the problem or maintain the security or make themselves stronger. It is basically kind of, okay, if U.S. can't help us, can't give us what we want, then we will turn to your enemy. This is I think it's very stupid. It's a way for to commit suicide for these European countries. And like Ukraine seek to join NATO, but it doesn't mean once Ukraine join NATO, they will get all they want to defeat Russia. Still, like for example, inside NATO, Turkey always reject the Ukraine's this kind of proposal. And also, when we talk about helping Ukraine, we say it's not only help Ukraine, it's also help these European countries themselves. But like recently, von Leyen advocate for the rearm Europe that plan to fund to recruit like $800 billion to rearm Europe. However, France, Italy, and Spain, they reject this plan. They said, they claim they are going to file bankruptcy, even the national bankruptcy, so they can't afford this kind of budgets. So in this way, I would say that maybe tariff will be an efficient or at least a possible solution for these countries to gain more funds for their rearm this kind of plan, because U.S. charge tariff from Europe, and then this part of the tariff can be used by U.S. government to develop the defense and also purchase equipment, weapons to help their allies. And also, at the same time, Europe will charge more tariff from U.S. and then this kind of income, also revenue, also can be used by these European countries to increase their defense budget if they don't want to use their taxpayers' money at this moment. So because I mean, this is not just simple things we can stay here to think about, okay, US must be tough against both China and Russia and help Europe. That is the best, optimal situation we want. But if we can't, then compared to Biden administration's try to be a little bit more friendly to China and then defend Russia, maybe a little bit change in Trump administration, at least now it's just 2 months since Trump's administration, we could see something different, and maybe during the future progress, there would be more alternative solution come out along with the situation, and there will be more possibility come out. At least we can try at this moment. That's my thinking. Kill women babies is not freedom. It's violation of law unless it happened in a brutal regime like communist China. So,
yeah, but the law can be changed. That's the whole point.
So that's not the real freedom. I don't think that should be called as freedom. That is, I mean, I don't disagree with you about Bible, but just for how to define the bad and good freedom, because so you said France is most communist country, or even Jeff and Trevor South America is communist country. But for me, I was thinking when you are arguing, that's very interesting, because I come from the country with no freedom, no liberty compared to all of you. And when you try to define your country as communism, I was thinking that maybe something wrong with this term of communism. Because
yeah, we're not defining it as communism. Yarvin and the Dark Enlightenment people in MAGA are defining it as communism, right? We're not saying that.
Yeah, no, I mean, just a joke, because when we are citing these terms, and I was thinking the difference between the language, the terms, the cultures, and especially now when we talk about, as John, you said, bad freedom, I think that is kind of the so-called freedom China said we Chinese people have. Yes, yeah. In China, you can kill the cats and dogs easily. No one care about that. In China, there is no real domestic violence, because when husband beaten the wife, and he doesn't get the same punishment as a woman did it to the man. So, and also killing babies is, I mean, to be honest, still happen in China, because not only about abortion, it's even because in the remote, not very remote even. I can tell you the story. My friend has a babysitter in her home in Guangzhou, and she told me the babysitter is a very nice lady, because she fostered a girl, and she got that girl when she was a baby in the street. I said, how could she get a baby in the street randomly? And my friend said, the babysitter lived in a town in Guangdong province, and in 1990s to 2000, when she adopted that baby, and at that time, people usually abandon the babies, the girl babies, in the street, because that is even not the worst way for them to handle the baby girls. They want a son, so they don't want to waste their quota of only one child at home. Then when they have baby, they realize that is girl, they throw it to river, throw it to the mountain, like feed the animals, or just leave it in the street. So either they could be eaten by the like the homeless dogs, or they could die there, or maybe they are lucky they can be fostered by certain good people. And I also later heard many similar stories from other people in China. So yeah, this kind of, if you call it bad freedom, but we even Chinese people don't think that is freedom. It's just something very terrible, very horrible, anti-human. So still, if you say this is bad freedom, I would argue with you that no, we don't have freedom. We don't admit that it's bad freedom. This is not freedom at all. And I want to add something I learned from your argument, which I was thinking very interesting. Maybe you didn't realize that. Because when you are arguing about enlightenment, humanism, liberty, freedom, these kind of terms, you can all explain, like from the beginning of this term, how it come out and how it developed, how they combine the different, maybe from Latino to later become English or French, all this kind of history. But for me, as a Chinese native speaker, I can tell you, I mean, for me, I was thinking that's why China could manipulate the culture and also launch the advanced cognitive war against the West. Because clearly, you all can understand each other during argument, along with your knowledge in history, in philosophy, in religion. But for Chinese and for actually Asian people, but mainly Chinese people versus you, I mean, there is some kind of very deep gap between us. So, like when we talk about liberty, freedom, right? In China, we only have one term, 自由, about this. It covers all the things. And because we never develop real liberty or freedom in our culture, so our understanding of these terms, of all these concepts, is totally different from you, especially when we lack knowledge of Western culture, Western history, and religions, because we don't have this kind of access. And also all your knowledge goes to China, requires translation. So how it got translated in the beginning, that is during the same period when communism come to China, early 20th century, right? When Chinese people start to go to the Western countries to learn the language, learn the knowledge, and bring it back to China. And then they start to translate. So all these terms like enlightenment, humanism, liberty, all these things get into Chinese, into our understanding, that becomes certain Chinese terms. And why it calls these terms, it may have nothing related to the origin of this term. It's just somehow maybe sounds beautiful, or maybe because of the understanding of the initial translator. And then after that, we start to accept this term, and it become our knowledge. And that's why when the West try to understand China or communicate with China, especially when Chinese Communist Party becomes the owner of China, it's easily for you to get cheated by communist China, because first they deliberately to cheat you. And the second thing is, when they use the same term as you use, they are expressing different meaning, but you even don't know. For example, now you can argue that French Enlightenment and the US Enlightenment, but when we use the same Chinese term, 启蒙运动, and then translate to Enlightenment, how could you define which term, which background do we use in this term? When in Chinese document or in the negotiation with Chinese government or whatever this kind of collaboration, how could you understand what does China mean? So that's why China could like package all different kind of unrestricted war tactics in this kind of language to just to play the tricks with you. So that's something I was thinking when you are talking before.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Now, why China need to build the firewall? Why they need to control AI? They need to use AI to change your thinking when you try to understand Chinese document. I play the ChatGPT, even not the Chinese DeepSeek. I use ChatGPT to do a lot of tests. I realized when it touched to the Chinese English version conversion, it has very clear difference that they said they could not translate certain English content which criticize China's policy, even just talk about Xinjiang or human rights. No, ChatGPT defines it as once you try to convert into Chinese, then this is sensitive and violation their law. I asked ChatGPT, why can't we criticize China's policy in Chinese? It says because China is a dictator country, it doesn't proper, it's some political correctness. And I said, can we criticize Trump? He said, yeah, we can, because this is a U.S. Domestic problem. I said, then can I criticize Italian government? He said, oh, you can, because blah, blah, blah. So whatever, just China is sensitive. And then they from AI, from China, from all Chinese, like they use Confucius school to teach you learn Chinese. So all this way, you thought you are communicating with China in the way as you want, but actually you are already kind of pulled into their whole games to manipulate your thinking and the terms to finally bring you into the traps. So for what China's response and what China is working on, you can say that that's why I'm optimistic about Trump administration in their first month. So I know there are a lot of chaos that people argue controversial and something, but still I can see the hope. So because China is definitely very nervous, frustrated about all these kind of actions against communist China. So it's not only about sanction, not only about tariff, but also including the deployment of U.S. military. For example, the aircraft went to Guam, and which means they want defense. They want to enhance the defense in the second island chain, and also about Taiwan, because in Taiwan now there the president Lai Ching-te has clearly announced that they have enhanced their national security standard, and also they it's the first time actually the Taiwan government clear China is enemy, and so that make Taiwan could deploy more methods, more countermeasures against China's influence, and also their like propaganda, all this kind of unrestricted warfare. Also, that we can have seen that the recent published National Intelligence annual report from U.S. government has in using the same pages same amount of pages to describe China's threat against the U.S. As the whole amount of pages talking about Russia, Iran, and North Korea. So that means China itself equal to all the other three nations in the national security level against the U.S. So that means China is already being put as a top target enemy against the U.S. And this is also why the Communist China government is very nervous. And one of their response is to bring Russia and Iran to Beijing, hold a conference talking about nuclear security. But we all know that how Iran gets this kind of nuclear capacity is definitely not for the peace. It's mainly China facilitate all these things, help them to build the underground Great Wall of nuclear facility, and also supply the materials to Iran. And even after this conference in Beijing, U.S. government announced that they detected and intercepted the ships from China to Iran carrying the materials related to nuclear reactions, nuclear weapons. So it's like how China launched the so-called Palestine Peace, that kind of conference in Beijing in 2024, which they recruit the Hamas and all the other militia branches on behalf of these terrorists, and also the Palestine Authority in Beijing to claim China will help to build the peaceful Middle East, and also try to play the important role in the Middle East crisis against the West by leveraging the terrorists. And then soon after, these terrorists, especially the Hamas leaders, appear in the photo with China's Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi, or get eliminated. So now if this is this could be a tradition, so we could say that in the foreseeable future, maybe we will see someone else appear in this Iran, China, Russia nuclear meetings would also get eliminated, because clearly China is using these nuclear weapons or the nuclear capacities to create this kind of clear threat against the world. And I don't think the U.S. government should allow it to happen. And that's why I also think the U.S. government's plan of attacking, hitting Iran, destroy Iran's regime and destroy their nuclear weapon programs is not just some kind of talk, blah, blah, that kind of content. It should be something already on their classified program. You mean China alone launched the war? Like declared?
No. With if Russia's attacking NATO and the U.S.,
Russia.
Are China and North Korea ready to start the war in the Far East to join in with Russia?
What I can tell you, China always behind Russia because actually Ukraine war didn't waste Russia's elite troops. As you also mentioned, that they mainly use some kind of like prisons, machinery like Wagner, or the troops come from North Korea or China. Some people come from China to conduct that Ukraine war, but they still saved and also secretly trained their elite military for the future attacks against Europe. But also, I would say they also prepare for the Far East battlefield because, according to our sources, that China and Russia, they have their plans. They believe that Korean Peninsula is one of the optimal battlefield because in that area, these three countries, China, North Korea, and Russia, could have no problem about the supplies, logistics. But for the United States, it's not easy to defend in that area facing the joint troops. And also Japan is in danger. And because the war between Japan and Russia didn't thoroughly ended after World War II. It's just kind of, according to the agreement, is a temporary ceasement. So Russia always can declare the war against Japan. And that's why Japan is in a very dangerous situation. And of course, if the war happened in Korea Peninsula, especially the South Korea, then China could take the opportunity to get Taiwan, even with the pro-CCP campaign inside Taiwan's support. So that's why, from the South Korea President Yoon Suk-yeol's arrest, we have been warning that this is a very significant signal that how could China and also the joint forces behind that, like Russia and North Korea, could work together to incite the North Korea pro-U.S. government, and they try to make the situation escalating. And at that time, when the President Yoon Suk-yeol declared the martial law, our source has told us it's because China has been working a lot to fuel the chaos, even the potential war in Korean Peninsula. So we don't know whether Russia put all of their elite troops to the border near the Europe, but we also always need to be aware of that they have been prepared to expand their battlefield because their tactics, one of the important tactics is to distract the US and the Europeans' attention to make them cannot focusing on the certain battlefield, and then finally this joint forces could gain their advantage.